Good morning and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be changing this bike you can see in the background here from tube tyres to tubeless tyres. Now I know there's a lot of videos on YouTube about how to do this, but I'm a complete and utter novice. I've never done this before in my life. If you've never done it before, you're going to get to see how easy it is for a novice to do this job rather than an expert who's probably done it 100 times before. So if you follow the channel, you probably know up until this point I've been dead set against tubeless. Two main reasons for that. Originally, you know, my only experience I have of this is with car tyres. When you use tyre weld and you spray it inside the tyres, it used to make a god-awful mess. And when you finally did get to change the tyre, you had to clean up all the wheel and that, and it was just awful. You know, you were better off just fixing the tyre. So that's sort of my attitude towards putting actual sealant inside bicycle tyres. One of the reasons I didn't want to do it. Another one is that I actually like the idea of a tube. You know, if you have a puncture, you stop, quickly have the wheel off within seconds, you could quickly have the tyre off in seconds and change the tube, find that, you know, what's made the actual hole, and then you're on your way again. If you get a big hole or something in your tyre and you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're kind of stuffed, you know. You can probably do these repairs, I think they call them bacon strips or something like that, but I wasn't aware of that. So what's changed my mind? Well, recently went up to northern Spain. It's meant to be a month trip. We're going to do a lot of biking, you know, up there, and we had a few motorhome problems. We also had a lot of inner tube problems to the point where it actually sort of just ground me down completely, and after 3 weeks I says, tell you what, sod this, I'm going home, we'll go and sit under the air conditioning. I actually gave up, because even if things got working again properly, I was just so exhausted and fed up with it. I thought, no, I want to do the activities. So I don't want to repeat of that in the future. So why was I having problems? Well, the thing I didn't realise after coming back to cycling after a 30-year break was quite a lot had changed. No big surprise there. The rims had changed, the tyres had changed. And one of the biggest problems I'm finding now with tyres is actually getting them to bed cleanly onto the rim, you know, so you're not riding along as if you're on a square wheel. Never had this problem before. It's quite easy to do with some windoline, you know, and a compressor and a valve removed in the workshop. In the middle of nowhere, not so much. You know, I struggled and couldn't get my other bicycle, the tyre of other bicycle, to bed. About 4 inches of it just wouldn't seat properly. And it was all right when we was going across a rough ground, but on the road it was like boom, boom, boom. It was old, but I just couldn't get it to seat. So one of the main reasons I'm changing it is, you know, having to reseat the tyre when you're in the middle of nowhere is near impossible with these modern tyres. So yeah, that's the main reason. The other reason was I've been using these TPU inner tubes, and I was having a problem. They kept on going just near the valve here. We're going to have a good look at the wheel when I get it off to see if there's something sticking in it, but they kept repeatedly going on this valve. Now I had about 5 of these. Whether they were a bad batch or what, I really don't know, but it was the final straw that put me off, and I thought, you know, I'll be better off putting up with the goo in front of the tyres, which they say you could peel off the latex or wash out the acrylic type ones. I don't know, we'll find out in the future, but I thought I'd rather put up with that than these repeated, you know, punches in these inner tubes. So these are going to go. By the way, just worthy of note on the end of that is these TPU inner tubes actually weigh less than the sealant you put in tyres. So the people who actually quote that, you know, oh well, taking the tubes out makes the bike lighter, it doesn't replace with TPUs. These are actually about 45 to 65 grams. If you're putting 90 grams of sealant in, obviously you lose that weight thing, but hey, that's by the by now. So what's going to be covered in this video? Well, firstly, we're going to cover tyre compatibility. You know, can you just actually do this to your wheels and your tyres will be all right? You do need to check tyre compatibility. This bike behind me has just had new tyres on, and they're Continental Shield wool, so they are compatible. My other bike, which has also got entry level, actually Continental Cross King, basically the same tyre but without shield wool, that has got a wide rim and it is not compatible. So my other bike that I'm going to do, we had to replace the tyres completely. But for this bike today, this is going to be compatible. We're also going to check into the rim compatibility. The profile has to be right as well, and when we get the tyre off, we'll go into that a bit deeper. And then in the end, we're just going to do this one front wheel, get it all done, do the taping, do the valve, do the sealant. The sealant I'm using is quite a thick, dense sealant, so it can't be introduced through the valve. It's got to be done directly into the tyre, which could be a bit of a challenge. We'll go into that and what you need to do, you know, fully bed the tyre first and then take it apart, etc, etc. We'll go into that as well. So quick video on how to do this. Let's get on with it. Okay, so that's everything off, and that went fairly quickly. Now onto the profile of the wheel. Now from the research I've done, apparently you're meant to make sure you've got this hook. I don't know if you're going to pick this up on the wheel here, but this actual hook on the rim here to stop the actual tyre, you know, from slipping off and straight off the edge of the wheel here and blowing out basically. That's the first thing you must have. If you haven't got that, then the wheel should be dismissed, you know, not used for tubeless. Also, this little part of the rim here, you see it down here, this must be flat. Some wheels actually slope down into the centre of the wheel, but this bit apparently must be flat for the tyre rim to sit onto. Now, I don't have personal experience of this, you know, all I'm doing is repeating what I've learnt, you know, in my research. Whether this is sloped in here, I certainly wouldn't want to try it without the rim, but whether this part of the wheel was sloped would mean you couldn't run tubeless. I don't know, you know, you'd have to assess for yourself whether you wanted to risk it or not. But certainly I would say you must have this little lip here on the edge of the rim here to actually stop, you know, it from blowing out, because instead of having just the inner tube pushing out on the tyre, you've just got pure air pushing out to it, and it's going to try and blow through any gaps, and obviously the main gap's going to be here between the rim and the tyre. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to clean this completely up. I can't remember if they call it isotope or something, or isotone alcohol. We're not going to use that. I've got surgical alcohol, which is nearly as good. So we're going to thoroughly clean this up of any grease, wax or any impurities. This looks pretty clean, so that the tape's going to stick and we're not going to have any adhesion problems. Okay, so that's all cleaned and all dried. Obviously the alcohol evaporates almost instantly anyway. I've been around and checked all around the spoke holes here to make sure there's no burrs or anything that'll spike through the, you know, through the actual tape. I've also checked the valve as well around here, the valve hole here, to see if there was actually anything that was causing damage to the inner tubes, and there wasn't. So it's obviously just an inner tube fault where the valves aren't sealing to the actual plastic. Anyway, onto the tape. So I've measured with calipers between here before I ordered the tape. It's just over 90 millimeters on top of the sort of this little ledge here. So it's obviously going to probably be about, you know, 2 millimeters more underneath the ledge. So I've gone for a 23 millimeter tape to allow for sort of the dip and to cover these spokes. I bought 50 meters. This is made by Zitto, just sort of a make off AliExpress. And I'm going to do 2 layers because I bought 50 meters. I've got 3 bikes to do. I'm going to do 2 layers around here. Okay, so now we're on to the taping. I'm using the wheel chewing tool because I've got it kicking around the workshop. It should give me an extra pair of hands, you know, so to speak, and make things a little bit easier. The valve's just here. I'm going to try and do this sort of round this way, and I'm going to take the tape about 4 inches, 10 centimeters past the valve. So the valve's here. We're going to start here, and we're going to go this way round. So let's see how we get on. Okay, quite difficult to start with, but once you get it started, it seems to be okay. I'm just stretching it round. I'm pushing it in with my thumb. I think I'm going to get it all around once first, and then push it all smooth down with my thumb. My finger right into the groove under the lip here and pushing tight down. No doubt there's a special tool to do this. Okay, so I've finished and done 2 passes with that. I'm happy with my decision to do two layers of tape, because I did notice I was gently pushing this tape down with the tyre iron. It's a little bit of shiny metal showing through the tape on the first pass near one of the valve holes. So yeah, it's certainly worth doing 2 layers on there just to knock out any very slight sharp edges around the spoke holes. But I'm fairly happy with that. I would say it's worth taking the time to push all the air out. You know, that's quite time consuming, and I suspect with experience and taking a little more care and a little more time in the initial putting on of the tape, that you get a lot more of the air out. Obviously this is the first time I've done this. Hopefully the second time will be a bit easier and a bit quicker. But I'm going to carry on a bit more and try and get a little bit more air out from between these 2 layers of tape and get it all pushed and make sure it's fully you know, stuck down, and then we'll move on to fitting the valve. Okay, so I've got that tape as good as I'm going to get it. I've got as much air out as I can, and like I say, I hope I'll do a better job on the next one. But I feel confident that all these spoke holes are sealed. So we're going to make the hole through for the valve. I've been advised that you shouldn't slit in any way so that a slit can extend, you know, make a leak. It says you should push through with something, you know, narrow. So I'm going to use this screwdriver to start with, and then probably an actual centre punch. I'm just going to pierce straight through here. Some people recommend soldering irons, and just to a hole. And then we'll go back through again there with the centre punch. Okay, so these are the valves we've got. Not sure they're made by another AliExpress special. They've got the star shape attachment here to hold it in from the bottom. You've got sort of a domed rubber here for the inside, and then for the outside you've got sort of a normal O-ring, and then, you know, a nut to tighten down. So let's try that, see how this goes in. I don't think there's any special sealant or anything you're meant to put in as far as I'm aware. Certainly nothing I've read about. Okay, where's our hole gone? It's rolled off around the corner. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to push through. Oh yeah, that's gone in nicely, that. Rubber seal on the outside. And then we'll screw our little nut down. Okay, I've got the valve in. I've had a few goes at it. I'm not sure I'm 100% happy with it. It sort of seems to be riding up the rubber around the, you know, the head here, around the base of the valve. It's tapered and it's gone into the hole, and it's got the seal on the outside. So after a few goes of getting it, that's about as good as it gets. So we'll just have to hope that seals and that's right. Like I say, with no previous experience of this, I don't really know. So let's continue on to the next stage. Okay, so now we've got the valve in, we're going to refit the tyre just as we normally would. Okay, so that's back on. I will say this went on a hell of a lot easier now it's been used. I've only done about 50 kilometres on it than when it's new. So I would definitely recommend, from my limited knowledge and experience on this, if you're putting brand new tyres on, fully inflate them and get them on the rim mounted and seated first before you remove it back off the rim again to put the actual tyre sealant in. So I'm going to use Windoline or a cheap alternative round here. I've had quite good success with that, and then we'll inflate this tyre with a compressor to get it seated on the rim properly. Okay, remove the inner valve. There we go, and we're going to inflate this to 56 psi, which is the maximum you can do on these tyres. Let's see if we can pop this out onto the bead. Okay, that's up to 56. There's some little air bubbles coming out, sort of round at the spokes here. I noticed on a couple of them. I don't know if that's just air sort of in the holes being pushed out. I don't know, let's hope so. But yeah, it seems to be holding quite well. Let's quickly just try it on the wheel truer. Quick spin. Right, no bumps or waves in that, so yeah, I'm going to say that's seated properly. Okay, so this is going down slightly, but yeah, there's no sealant in it yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the valve here at this point. I'm going to try and open up the tyre at this point down the bottom, at the opposite end from the valve, and see if we can pour this sealant in. Okay, so I'll turn this round. I use tyre levers. AI recommends not to use aluminium tyre levers but to buy plastic ones. Just pop out to the shop. Well, there's no popping out to the shop here, so we'll do this one with aluminium ones, and then the next ones we do, I'll order some tyre levers. Okay, that came off fairly easy. So we're using this super sealant Joe's No Flats. It's a combination of it's budget but got a good write-up, so I've gone for this. I've got a litre because I've got quite a few tyres to do. We need 90 millilitres, so I'm just going to put it sort of just under that 100 millilitres on that jug. Good shake first. Yep, just under 100 millilitres. And this is the part where things go horribly wrong very quickly, so I'll see how we go on. Just going to pour that straight in there. And carefully try and put the tyre back on. Okay, and that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Time yet, I suppose. Right, let's try a bit more air in here. Pop it back onto the rim. Let's go careful this time. Valve ready. Right, I'm going to take this up to the max, 56 again. That should do us. I'm going to bring this back in. Mount it on. Give it a good spin. Get that sealing going all the way around the tyre. Okay, I'm going to leave it for that, and now I'm going to take it off of here, and I'm going to lay it flat and sort of wave it around like this to get it to seal all the way between the tyre and the rim. That's the theory at least. Turn it over. Okay, I think the best way is just take it for a quick ride. So I'm going to set this down. I'm going to do it slightly more. I normally do my tyres about 25 psi. I'm going to do this at 30, which was a recommendation just for the first ride. Overinflate it to make sure it seats. So we're on 40 now, so I'm going to take that down to 30. Right, we're spot on 30 there. Put it on the bike, take it for a ride, and we'll see where we're at. Okay, so I'm back off my test ride. I took it off to a back gravel trail around the back there, so it bumped around a lot and got that sealant well mixed in. Brought it back, tested the tyre pressure, and it hadn't moved. So I've reduced it down to my normal riding pressure, which is 25 psi. And I did notice just a little bit of air as I was moving on the valve, coming out near the valve, and sort of a bit of the sealant coming out as well. Don't know if that's normal. Maybe you could tell me in the comments, and whether in time, you know, that sealant will do its job and seal it in around there. I wasn't very happy with the seating of the valve, I must admit. So what have I learned from this? Well, I think on my next one, obviously, I'll get better at doing it as I go along. I think take more time with the tape instead of sort of wrapping the tape a good foot round and do it nice and slowly and take the time to push the air out rather than rushing it around and try and push the air out later. I wasted a lot of time trying to get air out and push the maximum amount of air out I could. I think I'd taken more time, that would have been a lot easier, you know, and would have worked a lot better. And then again, the valve, I think, is getting the hole dead right and getting that rubber, that wedge-shaped rubber, to go, you know, partially into the hole and seat better. Like I say, one to two, happy with that valve. But other than that, only time will tell. I'll see if I wake up to a flat tyre tomorrow. So I think all that remains is thanks for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.